Welcome you to another deep dive. Today we are looking at something honestly pretty wild, something that affects you probably every single day.
Yeah, it's one of those hidden structures in our society that you don't really see until someone points it out.
Exactly. And to kick things off, I want you to think back to 2016 for a second. Spain basically rolled out the red carpet for like 65 million foreign tourists that year.
Right, the government and private sector built all this massive infrastructure for them.
Yeah, they welcomed them with open arms, celebrated the economic boost. But then that exact same year, all of Europe fiercely hesitated to accept just 160,000 refugees.
It's a staggering contrast.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this. Why do we so eagerly build infrastructure for the wealthy, but instantly throw up walls against the poor? And I guess more importantly, how did we accidentally hardcode that exact prejudice into the artificial intelligence running your life?
Well, that disparity is the hook of a really fascinating 2022 doctoral thesis by Georgina Curto-Rex from Universitat Ramon Llull. The whole mission for our deep dive today is to explore this invisible prejudice that governs us, and then discover how it is secretly being hard-coded into the AI systems you interact with daily. And finally, figure out how we can actually fix it.
And the core of this whole issue comes down to a specific term, right? A term that bridges human psychology and computer science.
Yeah, the term is aprophobia. It was coined by the philosopher Adela Cortina back in 2017. And it literally translates to the rejection or, the fear of the poor.
Because we usually assume hostility toward refugees is just about race or borders, right?
Yeah.
Like xenophobia.
Exactly. Cortina argued we confuse the two all the time.
Yeah.
But when you look at wealthy foreigners of the exact same race or nationality, I mean, they are welcomed enthusiastically.
Oh, for sure. They buy real estate, they start businesses.
Right. So the underlying trigger for the hostility isn't where the person is from. It is simply their poverty.
Which means if we want to understand how a predictive algorithm learns to discriminate against someone with a low income, we actually have to start with biology. We have to look at why the human engineers who build these systems harbor this bias in the first place.
Yeah, the research points out that this isn't just a cultural failing. It's actually an evolutionary reflex. It comes
Yeah.
down to a concept called contractualism.
Okay, contractualism. Break that down for me.
So it explores how our brains are wired for mutual help. Evolutionarily speaking, humans are homo reciprocans. Our survival historically depended on cooperation.
But specifically, cooperation where you expect something back, right? Like a return on investment.
Exactly. We share resources because we intuitively expect the other person to share resources with us when we need them. It is a deeply ingrained survival strategy.
But that strategy has a massive blind spot because when we encounter someone who is extremely poor, someone who seemingly has no material wealth or status to offer in exchange, that ancient exclusionary reflex kicks in.
The brain literally perceives a broken transaction. It signals that this person has nothing to give, so the biological impulse is to reject them, to isolate them, to protect our own resources.
And the modern individualistic achievement principle, basically modern capitalism, just makes this so much worse.
Oh, without a doubt. Instead of recognizing that reflex and consciously overriding it, our economic systems have amplified it.
But wait, I want to push back on that slightly. Isn't equal opportunity the whole point of modern welfare states? We hear this rhetoric constantly. We have public schools, we have grants. The system is theoretically designed to level the playing field.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the thesis argues that the rhetoric of equal opportunity is actually weaponized against the poor. Modern capitalism promotes the idea of a pure meritocracy.
Right, the idea that anyone can succeed if they just work hard enough. It's like playing a rigged game of Monopoly where some players start with hotels, yet we still shame anyone who goes bankrupt.
That is a perfect analogy. The psychological trap of a meritocracy is severe, because if society genuinely believes the system is fair and equal, then anyone who fails within that system must be personally flawed.
So it turns structural inequality into a personal moral failure. If you are poor, well, you must be lazy. You must be making bad choices.
Precisely. We blame the victim to protect our belief in the fairness of the system. And the source material completely dismantles the reality of that meritocracy. It cites a major study by Chetty on social mobility in the U.S.
The one tracking how likely someone is to move from the bottom of the economic ladder to the top.
Yeah, and the data shows that only 7% of people born into the bottom 20% of income ever make it to the top 20% in their lifetime.
Wow, just 7%. So the ladder of social mobility is statistically a myth for the vast majority of people.
It is a myth. But the societal stigma attached to not climbing that ladder is very real. And that combination, our biological reflex to reject those who can't offer us a transaction, combined with an economic system that shames them, creates the toxic foundation of aprophobia.
And up until recently, that was purely a human problem. But knowing this bias exists in human psychology isn't enough, is it?
No, because the real danger explored in this species is that we are actively feeding these exact psychological flaws into the databases that train our AI.
Right, which brings us to what philosopher Luciano Floridi calls the on-life. I mean, we don't really have an offline and an online existence anymore. They've merged into a single reality governed by AI capitalism.
And in AI capitalism, your role has fundamentally shifted. You are no longer just a consumer buying a product, you are an information hub.
Every location, ping on your phone, every search query, every digital transaction, your data is the raw material, and the AI is the factory.
Exactly. And what this research reveals is that this digital factory systematically penalizes the poor. The thesis references Virginia Eubanks' concept of digital poorhouses.
Which is such a dark concept. Historically, physical poorhouses were designed to be so miserable that people would avoid seeking government help.
Right, and Eubanks argues we have just digitized that process. We use automated eligibility systems to create friction, deliberately making it difficult for vulnerable people to access social services.
It extends into what Ruha Benjamin calls a scored society, too. Predictive AI risk models are used by hospitals, right? To determine who gets prioritized for care, or by banks for mortgages.
Yeah, or hiring software to filter resumes. These systems look for markers of success or reliability, which are historically correlated with wealth. So the algorithms categorize needy individuals as high risk, intentionally excluding them from basic services.
But wait, if AI operates in a black box and lacks common sense, how can you, the listener, even know you're being discriminated against? If a human loan officer denies your mortgage, you might see it in their body language. But a machine just spits out a system error.
This raises an important question. The poor are basically rendered invisible in this system. The total lack of transparency removes accountability completely.
Because no software engineer is sitting down and writing code that explicitly says, discriminate against poor people.
Exactly. It doesn't work like that. AI systems amplify apophobia because they learn unsupervised from historical data. The AI simply ingests decades of human data, complete with all our victim-blaming meritocracy, and it accepts that data as objective truth.
So it takes human prejudice and just launders it into mathematics. It locks apophobia into the societal infrastructure without anyone taking accountability.
Which is why the empirical core of this doctoral thesis is so vital. It's one thing to theorize that AI holds a bias against the poor. It's entirely another to mathematically catch the algorithm red-handed.
Oh, absolutely. And to do that, the researchers designed an experiment called the Apophobia Word Embedding Association Test, or a WEAT for short. They analyzed 263 terms to see how closely they associated with the words rich and poor.
Right, and they looked inside 3 massive AI databases: Google News Word2Vec, Wikipedia Glove, and Twitter Glove.
So they are mapping the actual brain of the AI here. Here's where it gets really interesting. They started by testing neutral words, things like names of plants or planets.
You would assume neutral words would be perfectly balanced between rich and poor.
You would think so. But even there, the data showed a slight bias leaning closer to wealth. It proves that the market economy touches literally every concept in our language. But the real shockers were the favorable and unfavorable attributes.
Because again, you would hope that positive human traits would be distributed evenly across income levels.
Yeah, but no. The AI plotted favorable words like sympathy, politeness, and honesty incredibly tightly around the word poor.
Now, at first glance, you might think, well, it's a good thing, right? Associating poverty with honesty. But the researchers provide a crucial sociological analysis here.
Right, because associating the poor with sympathy and politeness actually reinforces a deeply entrenched stereotype of subservience. It's that old Victorian concept of the deserving poor.
Exactly. The algorithm learned that poverty is acceptable to society only if the poor person is docile, quiet, and requires our pity. It implies a strict hierarchy. It is not plotting them as equals.
It's plotting them as subjects of charity. Meanwhile, hedonistic words regarding pleasure and attractiveness and enjoyment, those clung tightly to the word rich.
The machine learned that having wealth means you get to experience the joys of being alive, while being poor means you are defined entirely by how much sympathy you require.
It's just so bleak. But the most shocking element wasn't just the overall bias, it was the stark difference between the databases themselves. When they compared the Google News AI against the Twitter AI, they found totally different flavors of discrimination.
Yeah, this part is wild. So the Google News embeddings are trained on objective professional journalism. In that data set, the AI showed a significantly higher bias against the poor regarding conceptual beliefs.
Meaning it strongly associated the word poor with terms like substandard, mediocre, or inferior.
Yes. The supposedly objective news media holds this deep, quiet, conceptual bias. Journalists aren't actively writing hate speech, but their patterns of language subtly link poverty with a lack of intrinsic value.
Wow. And then what about Twitter?
Well, the Twitter embeddings trained on social media showed a higher bias regarding visceral actions and discrimination. The Twitter AI associated the word poor tightly with words like hate speech, hostility, aggression, and insult.
So social media strips away the polite veneer. It is the wild west of active hostility.
Exactly. The polite society conceptually views the poor as mediocre, while the unfiltered public actively hurls hostility at them. It proves algorithms aren't neutral at all. They are highly accurate mirrors of our societal flaws.
Which brings us to the big question. Now that we have absolute proof that AI holds this deep-seated bias against the poor, what can we actually do about it? Why can't we just program the AI to ignore income or zip codes?
Well, that concept is called fairness through unawareness. And it basically doesn't work due to something called redundant encodings.
Redundant encodings, meaning the AI finds a workaround.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to hide a specific demographic trait from an advanced AI is like trying to hide your identity by putting on a mask but standing in front of a bright light. The AI doesn't need to see your face. It just looks at the shape of your shadow to determine your height and posture.
So the algorithm is looking at the shadow. You delete the zip code and income, but the AI is smart enough to predict your income based on other, seemingly unrelated data points.
Right. It analyzes your Spotify playlists, the vocabulary in your emails, the time of day your phone battery typically dies. All those points correlate to income. It simply uses them as a proxy to recreate the forbidden variable.
You can't just throw data at the problem. I mean, the thesis cites the Delphi project, right? Where researchers trained an AI on 1.7 million human moral judgments.
Yeah, they tried to teach the machine right from wrong. And despite heavy curation, the AI still perpetuated racism and discrimination 9% of the time until human engineers manually corrected it.
It just proves the baseline data is inherently poisoned by our own history. So what is the actual solution proposed in the thesis? Because we can't just give up.
We definitely can't. The thesis introduces the AI bias mitigation process, or AIBMP, and it's a hands-on end-to-end process. Instead of pretending we can create a perfectly fair, value-free AI, we have to embrace pro-ethical design.
What's fascinating here is that we basically have to accept that perfect mathematical fairness is a mathematical impossibility.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is the AIBMP insists on bringing historically discriminated groups into the actual design process from day one. You can't leave ethical decisions solely in the hands of data scientists.
Right. You need the vulnerable populations sitting at the table when the system is coded, because they can identify the subtle proxies for poverty that a wealthy engineer in Silicon Valley would completely overlook.
Furthermore, the goal isn't to build a flawless machine, it's to create a transparent one. The AIBMP mandates a human-in-the-loop structure where inevitable ethical trade-offs are openly communicated to you, the user.
If an AI is making a decision about your life, you have a right to know the exact parameters and limitations of the math evaluating you. So, what does this all mean? When we step back and look at this entire deep dive, from the biological impulses of Homo reciprocans to modern capitalism to word embeddings.
It reveals that epiphobia isn't just an ugly human trait. It is a systemic bug, and we are unwittingly uploading it into the digital backbone of our future.
And this matters directly to you listening to this right now. Whether you consider yourself rich, poor, or somewhere in between, your future healthcare, your loans, and your job prospects will be judged by these very algorithms. If the digital architecture of our society is mathematically biased against vulnerability, then none of us are safe when we inevitably hit a rough patch.
I want to leave you with a final, somewhat provocative thought based on all this source material. For years, the dominant anxiety around AI has been that the machines will eventually outsmart us and turn against humanity.
Like a sci-fi movie.
Exactly. But this research suggests a much more immediate reality. If AI trained on historical data perfectly replicates our darkest, most hidden biases, maybe the ultimate value of artificial intelligence isn't to predict human behavior at all,
Wait, then what is its value?
to act as a brutally honest mirror. For centuries, society's been able to deny its hatred of the poor by hiding behind the myth of meritocracy. But you cannot argue with the vector mapping of a multidimensional word embedding. It is right there in the data. So could exposing the hidden apophobia in our machines actually be the wake-up call we need to finally debug human society?
Wow, the machine is showing us exactly who we are. It is deeply uncomfortable to look at, but now we have absolutely no excuse not to fix it. Keep questioning the hidden codes in your own life, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.